to this lockdown. So, how employees can legally approach and all? Please explain in detail.
So let's take this one by one. First of all, we must understand that not all employees are the same. There are employees who have a contract with the company, who are contracted workers or employees, and there are employees who are not contracted. There is also a category of employees which is sourced from another contractor who are subcontracted. So there are three kinds of legal positions, three or four, depending on the nature of the sector, the business that the company is running. One is the full-time employees. These are the employees who are very secure with contracts, the salaried employees, the working, um, which we call white collar employees, who are in the management or in the full-time payroll of the company. Number one. So these are the first type of employees category where we say that there is a contract, and for them, if the company terminates or there is some breach of contract or breach of payment, then they have to see what was in the contract, what they've agreed to in the contract, what were the terms of the contract, and then negotiate or file a breach of contract suit accordingly. I don't think at this point of time that, I think the best solution at this point of time is to negotiate and just to kind of get some sort of arrangement, temporary arrangement with the companies and with the employees of this type of contract, because the companies don't want to lose these employees. And the employees also, they are, have a contract in place, which means they have a right to exercise that contract, to enforce that contract. So these are the kind of employees where negotiation is a good thing, unless it's a very big, because see, every company, every employee is in the same position. Now this pandemic, this coronavirus is actually called force majeure in law or act of God. I mean, it all depends on how you look at this situation, because this was a situation which nobody expected. Nobody can control it also. So therefore, and this is the classic definition, right? This is the classic case of what we call as force majeure. All clauses, most of the clauses, most of the contracts will have that force majeure. In case the contract does not have the force majeure, then it can be negotiated. That's number one. For the second type of employees who are subcontracted, which means these are employees who are outsourced. So there is a certain person or a company which lends employees, which supplies employees and labor to the other companies. Then the companies have to see what is the agreement with that contractor. So there will be a service level agreement with that contractor, any sort of arrangement or agreement or contract with that contractor who supplies the employees. Now, then the employees of that contractor have to negotiate with him. The contractor has in turn to negotiate with the company, because this is two steps. Two-tier arrangement. The company pays the contractor pays the workers or the employees. So the employees have to see who they are full-time with, the contractor or the company. The company and the contractor have to negotiate that agreement. Look, this is not really the time to file petitions or lawsuits, because it is really in vain. You will be really, everything will be delayed and deferred anyway. And nothing, the courts are really having urgent hearings. And there is also an equal amount of PIL causes that the situation gives rise to. So you have PILs, you have special leave petitions, you have how many service level disputes can you really litigate? It is better to negotiate, because we don't have class action suits in India. We have very less. I think the last class action suit that really was worthy of a class action suit was Bhopal gas tragedy. After the Bhopal gas disaster, we've not really had that number of people facing the same hardship. Maybe that one nuclear plant was there. Sterlite is another example where you have a sizable amount of people with the same cause of action. So when you have enough people with the same, complaint or the same legal issue, then you can litigate. You can say all these people will collectively file a suit or collectively file a PIL, public interest litigation. But to say that at individual levels, this has to be negotiated. And if it is a company to company, if one company is the employee of another company, like a big subcontractor and a company, then they will have to seek modes of resolution like arbitration. They can arbitrate their dispute. They can compensate each other, and then they can see how to compensate their own employees. And then it's the last category of employees which are basically those are the daily wagerers, and the government really has to take most care of them. Because we have a MyBab government, we have a welfare state. So if you're not protected by environment, you're not protected by resources, you don't have any legal remedy, to which you can pay for, or which you can get access to justice in those cases, the state has to really do and provide for those people, either collectively, or they have to have some sort of policy measure in place. So those are the three types and situations that every employee can generally be put in.
Right. One more thing is about this wine and liquor sales are open in some of the states, and mainly from today in Andhra Pradesh, the wines and liquors are open. So social distancing is the main request there. Is it really possible to maintain social distance, and can we eradicate corona from this situation?
So is it possible to maintain social distancing in liquor shops? I wouldn't know. I've never visited one. Honestly, I don't know what goes on there. But looking at it from a policy and a legal and a government perspective, there are two issues that can come up in as far as liquor shops are concerned. One is the social, what is social, and the second is what is economic. Now, socially, of course, it is not, it's more like an economic need right now, where there is a certain amount. The reality is, and the fiscal reality also is, the liquor shops generate taxes. The liquor shops pay taxes to the government, and the government, it depends on each state government actually, because each state consumption and consequence of consuming liquor are different. Not all states have the same reliance on revenues generated through liquor shops. This is again a classic case of balancing what the liquor shop can give you versus the impact of that on society. So that position is very, very difficult, because on the one hand you have certain people saying, not really. Why would that be? Why would it be open now? Because that is not even essential. Can you classify that as an essential service? It's not covered under essential.
But as you have said, it is economically important to us.
Economically, it is. Yes, I'm not denying that. Economically, yes, the liquor shops pay their taxes. That's what I'm saying. Taxation. There are taxes that the government will get fiscal revenue from there. But having said that, it is not covered under the Essential Commodities Act. So if there are milk and salt, for example. Salt is essential commodity. Sugar is essential commodity. Milk is essential commodity. Is liquor essential commodity? I think the government is the best to decide that, because at this point they have the data on how much the liquor shops, the taxation or the fiscal revenue from liquor shops is. Frankly, the public does not have that data. So if that data is made, available, then only we can say that, okay, this is the economic, consequence of not opening or opening that liquor shop. As of the time, I think the social consequences vary from one state to another. So that is, I think it's again, essential commodities is under the central list. So that's really a call for the central government to take. But liquor shops are localized, that's local government. So state governments can take that call. And also we have a cooperative federalism in this country, where not all decisions can be made unilaterally by center. They need the cooperation and to convince the states. And not all decisions can be made by the state alone. So people on the ground are the best to assess that, But yes, of course, there are economic implications again.
I need just opinion of yours. So the government have given some leisures in green zones and orange zones. So the people who are living in these zones can protect themselves. We are trying to protect ourselves, but today's the coronavirus cases are 42,533 till now. So through this decision, what is the situation? Will the number of these coronavirus cases increase due to this decision? What is your opinion?
See, whether the number of cases will increase is something which an epidemiologist can answer, because I don't have a medical background and I'm not an expert on epidemiology or diseases. Okay, so whether it's
There is no possibility of social distancing through
but
this.
the trend is
The salons are open,
yeah,
the gyms are open.
you're right. I mean, this look, there is an increasing trend. We are not seeing. Let's be honest. I mean, the rate of growth is increasing, but at a manageable rate. You know, it is not that kind of exponential that had the lockdown not been there, it would have been really exploded on us. You know, it would have been exponential. So because of the lockdown, though it is increasing at a rate which is less than what it would have increased at had the lockdown not be there. So let's be very clear on that. That I mean, nobody can deny that. I mean, everybody agrees on the fact that the lockdown has kind of at least made it difficult for the virus. You know, let the virus do more hard work. You know, let us also make it harder for the virus. You know, that is the kind of mindset that obviously the thinking that went behind the lockdown. Number one. Secondly, now as you said, the lockdown per se, how much impact, how much correlation we can make with the decrease in the rise in cases versus the easing of the lockdown is something we'll have to measure in the coming days, because we've just eased the lockdown now. So this easing of lockdown, now we have to really follow up and analyze the data. We have to follow the data. We have to follow cases closely. We have to analyze how much it is increasing or decreasing and where. So based on that, the ease of lockdown can be correlated with the rise or fall of cases in the future. Because right now that link is hard to make because we've just eased the lockdown. But having said that, it's very clear that had the lockdown not been there, the rate of increase of the virus would have been much higher than it is today. And the rate of doubling also. So because this virus is highly contagious, as we've seen the case studies of Italy, we've seen the United States, you know, where it has doubled every day, literally every day, every 2 days, because this virus multiplies itself. It does not add, there's no addition, there's multiplication going on. So it multiplies at a rate which is harder to control or manage or even imagine. You know, it is highly contagious. So, and therefore it is important to know how long is it taking to double. You know, because if suddenly it doubles, we are not doubling our hospitals at the same rate, right? We are not doubling our doctors at the same rate, right? As the virus. So the virus is growing faster than our capacity. See, it's like this. If you're running a race, then you just have to outrun your opponents. You don't have to really set a speed record. But having said that, I think at this given point of time, I know it is a little early to say, and I don't wish to say it, but as on the given date, I think India has, relatively speaking, than the other countries managed to, you know, keep the virus at a sort of manageable position. You know, India really not easily
are looking at India, how we are managing this. Really hats off for the government, but what are the measures they are going to take at this point of situation? This is we can't live in homes for months and months and years. So we have to come out. We have to do our daily lives and all. So how we have to protect ourselves and go out and do our works. Mainly, I'm talking about the poor people who cannot survive without a penny.
See, I think it's very clear that if we are discussing this, anybody who is a decision maker, who is in the government, is also thinking and discussing about it. Because frankly speaking, the information available to us, much more is available to them than the information available to us. If this information and these thoughts are coming to us, then do you think, common sense, would make us think that even they are thinking the same thing? So I'm sure that the decision makers are aware of it, are thinking also on these lines. They also know that it cannot remain status quo, or lockdown cannot be a situation that normal, that where it is normalized. So we cannot have a normalized situation of a lockdown. But I mean, how long and when and how? That is the question facing the government. Look, when is a question that no government at this point can answer with certainty. So we'll have to give the benefit of doubt at this point of time, because that is up to the medical experts. A medical expert or an epidemiologist can model and give us probable scenarios on when that the virus or when the lockdown, can ease or extend, etc. So that is something, as you said, the cases. So the caseload, the prediction about that comes from a medical professional or an expert. But how to do it is something that is left to every government's, understanding, maturity, resources, and capability. Because you need to be able to be able to analyze the situation for what it is, and able to make that decision based on what you have. For example, whether you want to eat, how many meals do you want to eat today? No, this is an individual decision based on one's own diet, lifestyle, appetite, or availability of food, honestly. So how can anybody else make that decision? The government has to make that decision based having these considerations, and I think they will have these considerations, because these are the key considerations. Right now, the parameters of the disease are left to the medical experts to decide. But the decision regarding, and also who is advising, whether the medical advisor is advising or the economist is advising, everybody has their own perspective. The economists will obviously put the economy, at a higher priority. The medical expert will put lives at a higher priority. So it really depends on the lens and the dimension you're analyzing this from. But I do think that the four considerations on what they are being advised by the medical professionals, what medical data they have, they and finally, how much of of leadership, the leadership is of this country. The Prime Minister has done a very good decision to lock down. Now, what are the decisions that he's going to make in the future will depend on all these considerations. And I'm sure they have the data, they have the experts, they have the resources.
Right, Aparna. Thank you so much for coming to live with us, and we have discussed many things about the impact of COVID and this lockdown on MSME and normal people, and also for labor. Thank you so much for sharing your opinions. And this is for today. Mali, next we'll come with another live. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you.
Thank you, Jyoti. Thank you so much. Thank you.